Hi everyone, welcome to Draw with Sandy at the Little Artistic Nook. Today we'll be drawing this cute little skunk. To begin, come to the center of your page and draw out a small heart that is tilted slightly to the left for your skunk's nose. Then, from underneath that heart, draw down a small line and add in any mouth you like. This time I'm going to do a little smile by drawing two curves, one on each side. Then come back up to the nose and draw out a large oval for the eye and do the same thing on the other side. If you want your face to be extra cute, try to have your eyes match the same line as your nose. To add in some eyelashes, draw over top of that top line of your eye and then extend a small line outwards, drawing in a second one to create another eyelash. For the highlights, I'm going to come to the top of the eye and draw out a large circle or curve, and then just underneath that a small heart for a second highlight. I'm going to color in my eyes now, but of course you can do that at the end of your drawing. Now I'm going to add in some cheeks by coming to the outside edge of the eye and drawing a curve that goes all the way underneath and connects on the inside edge. Do the same thing on both of your eyes. And add in some small eyebrows just above them to create a super cute expression. To plan out your skunk's face, find the center by placing a small mark just above the nose and in between the eyes. Then start to curve a line that sweeps up and over the eyebrow and then a little bit down the other side, stopping near the top of the eye. Do the same thing on the other side, creating a nice curve in the center and sweeping all the way and up over the eye and eyebrow. Come to the side and start to draw out some little wavy lines to indicate fur on the side of her face. You can stop just about in line with your cheeks. And then close off the bottom of her head by drawing a smooth, slightly curved line that goes all the way underneath her mouth and closes on the other side. To make the top of her head, I'm going to come back to the side where the fur starts and start to draw a curved line that goes over the arch above her eyebrows and starts to move towards center. Once you get about to in line with your eyebrow, start to draw out a little wavy line to indicate fur at the top of her head, and then when you get to the second eyebrow, start to smooth your line and curve it all the way back down to meet the fur on the other side of her face. To place my skunk's ears, I'm going to find where my eyebrow is and I'm going to come to the top of her head and then draw out a small loop. Inside of that loop, I'm going to make a second loop, and that will be the inside of her ear. Do the same thing on the other side of her head for her second ear. To plan out her body, I'm going to come and place a small mark underneath the bottom of her face that is in line with the outside edge of her cheek, and then a second line on the other side that is slightly angled towards center but also on the outside of the cheek. Draw out a wavy line from the first marker about halfway down the page. And then come back to where that line meets the head and draw a small curve that moves away from the center, wraps around, and comes to make a small little circle or spiral and draw in some little tiny lines for fingers. This is your skunk's paw, and this will be the paw that is over top of her tail. Now we're going to create the tail, so follow that line that's the back of her arm and imagine that it's continuing underneath. So I'm going to draw out a really small curve that's coming towards the bottom of my page and just make a little bit of a return coming back towards center. Then to separate the tail from the body, I'm just going to draw a small line somewhere near the top of that curve that connects to the underside of her paw. So you will create a little shape that looks like a triangle just on the back side of her paw. Now imagine you're continuing that line through to the other side of her paw and then start to draw a curved line that's coming up towards her face or towards the top right corner of your page. You can draw out some fur at the end here to make her tail look nice and bushy. And then I'm going to curve that line all the way back to meet the back side of her tail. Now I'm going to finish the front of her belly by just extending some wavy lines from that second marker on the right side. Stop at the tail, and then from just behind there, draw out a slightly angled line to indicate her other paw that would be hidden behind the tail. Come back to the back and continue following that line of the tail, and then draw out a small foot just underneath by creating a little hook and then a straight line for the bottom. Do the same thing on the front, but this time you're going to curve to the right and then draw your straight line towards the center of the page, coming back to meet the tail. Draw in a small toe line. Now we want to add in some details on the tail. So I'm going to start from the back end of the tail, and I'm going to start by just drawing a line that follows the outline of the top of her tail. I'm not going to go all the way to the end, but wherever I stop, I'm going to then close that by starting back at the top and drawing a line that goes all the way to the back end of the tail. I'm going to make a second one that's following the curve along the bottom of her tail, and again doing the same thing, just closing it off at the top. And then I'm going to add in a third smaller line and closing it in. So when you go to color in your snake, you can leave these spots white and color the rest of her tail black or whatever color you're going to make your skunk. So now that we've drawn out our skunk, I'm going to give her a setting. So to begin, I'm going to draw out some grass because I think the most lovely place for a cute little skunk is in a nice field of flowers. So draw out a squiggly line that's higher than the bottom of her feet, drawing this on both sides of her body. To start, I'm going to draw in a daffodil, and I'm going to make this a little daffodil. So just drawing a small curved line, adding in some raindrop leaves. I'm going to come to the top of the stem and draw one angled petal that's leading towards the skunk, and then a second petal leaning away so that it looks like a heart. From underneath those petals, I'm going to draw in a third and a fourth petal that curve at the top and then meet at a point at the top of the stem. In between, draw in the center of the flower by creating a rectangular triangle and adding your stamen. Next, I'm going to draw a really tall rose. So this time I'm drawing out a really long curvy line. Then to create the center, a small circle that's just a little bit away from the top of the stem. My petals are just curvy lines that look like little M's, or really, there's not a specific shape. And just keep building out by adding more and more petals behind the ones you've just drawn. The more petals you add, the fuller your flower will be. And then of course, I'm going to add in a couple little leaves. On the other side of my skunk, I think I'm going to add in some tulips. So my first tulip's just going to have a really simple curved stem, and from the top I'm going to draw a big U and close it off with a nice W. To make this flower a little extra special, I'm going to give her a little face, and then I'm going to draw in my stamen coming out of the top. I'm going to do one more tulip beside her, this time a little bit longer, so I'm going to make a really long curvy stem. And then from the top, I'm going to draw a U, and starting at one side of the U, I'm going to curve a line back to center, do the same thing on the other side, and then close it off with a small V in the back. Don't forget to add in some leaves. And now, to just create a little bit more whimsy in this picture, I'm going to draw some floating flowers. So to start, I'm going to draw a large circle up near the top of her head, and I'm going to add a little face. Next, I'm going to just draw out some basic petals by creating loops that start and finish at the outside edges of this center circle. Just above her head, I'm going to draw one more flower, once again creating my center, adding a little tiny face, and this time I'm going to make my petals just a little bit longer and a little bit thinner. However, You're going to be making the same basic mark with your marker or pen by drawing a curve that starts at the center and then connects back. You can fit in as many petals as will go around the center. And then, if you want, you can add some extra details by just drawing short little lines that touch the center of your flower and move into the petals. Thank you so much for drawing with me today. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, stay tuned to see if your artwork's been featured at the end of this video. And until next time for another Draw with Sandy here at the Little Artistic Nook, keep making art and keep smiling.